Let's do it. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So welcome back to The Ringer for episode 2. Got some good feedback from episode 1 with Connor Mackey of the Calgary Flames. He had a lot of good insights to share. That will be up on our website and our YouTube channel, I believe, tomorrow, where people who didn't get the chance to watch it or want to watch it again can do that. And the plan is to do that with Carson's as well, probably tomorrow or the next day. So feel free to pass that along and share it with anybody who you think might be interested by it. So, all right. So episode 2, The Ringer, we've got Karson Kuhlman is it Kuhlman or Kuhlman? Kuhlman?
Nope, you got it. Yeah, you nailed it first time.
Karson Kuhlman, like we're buddies a little bit, but I guess we've never talked about how to say it. But we got Karson Kuhlman, who is a member of the Boston Bruins organization right now in his second year with the team. He is a good friend of mine through a mutual friend, and again, he is an absolute competitor. We've had 2 amazing guests now, right off the jump here. 2 words that I kind of think of when I think of Karson. Again, I don't know him extremely well, but we've had some good times together. He's an absolute competitor. My sources tell me he's probably one of the most competitive people on the planet. And then personally, what I know about him is he's a very responsible guy. Usually when we have our get-togethers, he's kind of the dad that's making sure everything's going all right and things are staying safe. And above that, he's a really good hockey player. So I'm excited. I'm dying to know more about you, Karson. Everyone has a story, and typically there's kind of a reason why people end up where they do. And you've managed to end up in the best league in the world. So I'm excited to understand exactly why that is. I guess just a little background for how I know you. Through a mutual friend, Jake Algren, he's actually on right now. You guys played Lake Superior Stars together growing up, I believe.
Yep.
We got the chance to meet at We Fest, where you proceeded to chirp me because I was wearing a Gophers bucket hat.
That's right. That would have been the first day.
Yeah, it was a tough start for us, but we've managed to pull it through. And then these last couple summers, we've been able to kind of meet every year at the end of the summer for the annual, which is kind of our boys' trip to the Algren cabin. So it's been good to get to know you. And actually, I was just thinking, Kars, we're retired from We Fest, and they missed us so much that they decided to cancel it this year.
Yeah, they're just not even having it. That's crazy. Well, that's too bad for a lot of folks. But I guess to start off, thanks for having me on. This is awesome. I heard the first one with Connor went really well. Obviously we go way back, and I mean we have some serious talks around the fire, but never really about our professional life like this, which is kind of put aside on a weekend at the lake. So this is pretty cool.
Absolutely, dude. I'm excited to kind of dive into the whole journey so far and then get into your training habits a little bit. So just as I'm going to kind of share this with each guest as we get started, my biggest goal here is to stay away from the cliche hockey answers or the cliche, interview answers. And then kind of my biggest goal for all this is to take you through the ringer, on all things training, mentality, and experiences. So ideally, we're going to get you to a place where you're a little bit uncomfortable, but then also we'll have some fun along the way. I'm just looking for at least one little thing that I can use to make myself better and hopefully the listeners better. Because as I said, you're in the best league in the world. And if you're going to learn how to be the best, why not do it from the best? So with that being said, let's get kind of into things here.
Awesome. Let's do it.
All right. So just give us an update with where you're at with the quarantine. I know it's been kind of a crazy time with the league and everything like that. But for you personally, what's the day-to-day look like? What are the guilty pleasures you've been kind of finding, if any? And then how have you been finding ways to get better?
Yeah. Well, like you said, been a very weird time. Luckily been really healthy and safe through the whole thing. We've kind of been taking care of ourselves and staying away from everybody. But originally I was out on the East Coast in Boston right away for we probably did our 14-day, maybe even, I think we were out there almost 3 weeks. And then things in Boston just got really bad. It's kind of a hot spot right now, and we were living right downtown, kind of by the hospital. So people were always in and out of there. So we figured it was probably for the best to get out of there. So we made the trip back, and I'm currently in Duluth, Minnesota, where I spend my summers. I'm from 20 minutes outside of town, my parents' house, and I grew up there. But we just get a apartment here, and this is where I train and hang out all summer. We got a great group of guys that come back here, and it's kind of nice. You get a good mix of like my high school buddies that I grew up with, and then your college friends and guys that are still playing pro today.
Beautiful. What's kind of your day-to-day look like with the training aspect of things right now?
Yeah, so got really lucky. The apartment complex that we're in has a gym, and the guy basically opened it up for me to get down there. So have access to that in the morning. So basically, get up, go through the routine there. We've been pretty fortunate. Our trainers in Boston keep us up to date, and they have a whole regimen kind of custom to what machines you have and your needs and everything. So pretty set there. So that's been a blessing, because I know some guys aren't as fortunate, and they kind of are making do with whatever they got. So kind of go through that, and then been back to my parents' house, helping around there a little bit. Got out rollerblading a few times. We finally started to turn the corner, get some nice weather in Duluth. Made it out golfing, played a little tennis, just trying to stay active, but at the same time kind of digressing a little bit, and not really getting into full off season mode, but definitely taking a rest just in case we got to ramp it back up here and play.
Sure. Well, that's good. It sounds like things are going well for you, and as the same with everyone else, you're kind of standing pat, waiting for things to get back to normal. But I'd imagine you being, a professional hockey player, you have some pretty established systems that kind of keep you going, and things you have to hit on each and every day, even during a quarantine. So what are some of those things that you've been kind of making sure you do each and every day from, a nutrition standpoint, movement standpoint, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty routine guy, to be honest. I always kind of have been. So basically keep it really simple. Eat healthy and clean as good as possible. Right now I'm trying to I don't need to gain any weight, so I'm kind of on the maintain nutrition part of it right now, where during the season I would probably do another 800 900 calories, just because you're skating an hour to 2 hours a day with games and travel in there as well. So definitely trying to eat as clean as possible, and I got time on my hands, so I've been doing a ton of cooking. Added a few recipes to the regimen, so that's been good. And then as far as movement, like I said, we got our workouts scheduled for us pretty well, so following those strictly, and then getting outside. It's so much better here in the spring and summer, especially when you get through the winter and all that much. I'm a huge believer in getting that vitamin D and getting outside. So whether it's a hike outside or even just walking down by Lake Superior, just something simple to be outside.
Cool. Yeah, it's crazy, dude. I think I saw a statistic put out by the CDC, like the coronavirus dies within 30 seconds if you're out in the sunlight. Just getting that dose of vitamin D is vital.
It's great.
Which is really good for you. So you mentioned a couple new recipes in the mix. What's been your new favorite recipe here?
Yeah, we made beef stroganoff. So it was kind of like a cut up steak with pasta, and it was like a thicker recipe. Never made that. And then we made what did we make yesterday? Meatloaf the other day too. Super simple, but just had never done it, and it turned out pretty well.
Nice. I was going to get into this a little bit later, but you mentioned eating clean. What exactly does that mean, eating clean for you? And what are kind of your go-to foods that you got to be getting in the diet?
Sure. So basically there's really no secret to it. I just try to stay away from processed foods as much as possible. Do a lot of my shopping in the first turn of the grocery store, the fruits, veggies, and then it kind of some potatoes and starches, and then it gets into the meat section. So I think as long as you keep that in mind, you don't have to. For me, you don't have to go all the way overboard and do too strict of a diet. But if I know when my body is not getting what it needs, because I'll wake up and feel sluggish, or the midday I'll feel sluggish. So I've gotten to the point where I've kind of got it down to a pretty good routine now.
That's awesome. I think there's a lot of wisdom just in that simple idea of grocery shopping within that first turn. And your body has such a innate like intuition of like when you eat certain foods, you just don't feel as good. And,
absolutely, yeah.
And I wish we would listen to that more. You know, I wish people in general would listen to that more. But for you as a performer, you kind of have to, and you get left by the wayside if you don't. Is there certain areas? I mean, how strictly are you adhering to that no processed foods? Are you sneaking in some Reese's peanut butter cups, or like what? How strict are you with it?
Yeah. They'll find the way into my cupboard somehow, and they got to be eaten. But no, I think for the most part, my 3 meals are really good, and then the snacks in between there are where I start to kind of slip. So you just got to make a conscious effort at keeping that. And then as I've gotten older, I can't really eat before bed. That's one thing probably within right towards the end of college, probably. I just found myself, anytime I would eat, I would just be up laying in bed, and I kind of eliminated that maybe 3-4 hours before bedtime, and found that it helped with my sleep so much too, which is another important part after movement and eating. And then you got to find ways to turn your body off.
Yeah, the recovery, it's huge. Well, good. So I guess my follow-up question to that is, how many calories are you typically getting in during a day? And then how does that change when you're in season versus out of season?
Yeah, I don't typically anymore. When I was in college, especially my freshman year, I really was undersized, underweight. So then I was really counting calories, measuring stuff out, and taking it really seriously. Now that I'm at the weight that I want, as long as I can just maintain this, I'm good. Do that by 3 pretty large meals a day, couple snacks in between, and usually a big smoothie after the workout. That's kind of what I look forward to after that. But definitely during the season, a lot more protein and carbs, especially when you're playing games every other day and traveling and on the road. You get some pretty good meals on the road as well.
Yeah, I would imagine. Are there any kind of like superfoods that you're getting in there that you've really found have helped you? I know, like, you know, some people really, they swear by beets, you know, because they can help with some blood flow stuff. Some people are getting broccoli in to help with the lungs. There's some different like kind of benefits there. Is there anything that you kind of throw in from a superfood standpoint?
Yeah, nothing that's really out of the ordinary. I think just more fruits and veggies than you probably think you need. That's kind of what the point I'm at right now. And then we do a couple supplement stuff as well, just in the smoothie or whatever, whether it's vanilla protein and collagen and that kind of stuff. So a little bit of that here and there. Yep. Very
nice. Keeping it simple and not overcomplicating it, making sure the body is just where it needs to be. Cool. Well, that's good, dude. That's it sounds like things are, you know, pretty much as needed for you. So now I think it'd be a good time to kind of step into the background side of things and sort of highlight your path to the present. I think you have a lot of good stories to share based on your time in Duluth and then in Boston, and I'm sure the youth days as well. So let's sort of walk through the path to the present, starting with your youth hockey days in the Lake Superior Stars, and how you kind of got to know Algren, and what your youth years meant for your development.
Sure. So pretty lucky growing up. Grew up in a small town, Cloquet, right outside of Duluth in northern Minnesota here. A lot of hockey. I mean, everything. Like all my buddies played hockey. My relatives played hockey. Everybody just loved it. So I was pretty fortunate to kind of grow up around that. Always had access to ice whether it be indoor or outdoor. I think our town had probably 6 or 7 outdoor sheets just all around the city. So that was always nice. So I'm always fortunate that I grew up in a place where access to that was pretty easy. On top of that, we had a pretty good groups growing up. So competition was always kind of a thing that was around, whether it was in practice or games. When you were 5 years old, you wanted to score more goals than another good player on your team. So it was always kind of around there. And then as that evolved, like you said, the Lake Superior Stars is basically a AAA team that is a summer team where they handpick a few kids all over the area. And was fortunate to play with a lot of good players who became best buddies kind of growing up. And it was great to see everybody mature into high school and then college, and some make it to pros. And it was a pretty fun group that we had.
Yeah. How many, wasn't there just an astronomical amount of guys that ended up playing D1 from that team or professionally?
Yeah, it was crazy. Just a handful of, so our age group would be 1995s from, northern Minnesota. I would say it was probably 13, 14. I'd have to go back and look at the roster, but it was a good number for sure.
That's special. I mean, you guys are going all around the Midwest and maybe, I don't know, even around the country, winning tournaments.
Yeah, a couple big trips, I think, a couple Canadian trips. And yeah, it was a lot of fun for youth hockey.
That's cool. So when did you kind of personally sort of start to separate yourself from the pack and understand, okay, like I might play some college hockey? Obviously I have this dream of playing in the NHL, but when did that sort of maybe start to become more of a reality?
Sure. I think, like you said, the dream was always there, but there was always steps along the way. Like initially when you're a little kid growing up in Minnesota, like you go to the state tournament, you want to play in that. Okay, I grew up around Duluth. I wanted to play for UMD and win a national championship. And then obviously you watch the NHL and you want to be there someday. So I think I was kind of a late bloomer a bit. I was kind of undersized and really small growing up. But I think we had great teams growing up. So that really helped me get to play with good players. There was 2 or 3 guys that ended up playing college from our youth team and high school team. So I would say probably when I played varsity in 9th grade, that was a little eye opening for me, playing against, kids 3-4 years older than you and having to compete against them and realizing that I could hold my own there was a pretty good stepping stone for me.
Cool. So one last question on the youth, and then I kind of want to transition into your USHL years with Dubuque.
Yep.
Who was kind of your favorite player growing up? Who did you try to model your game after and that sort of thing?
Oh, sure. Was a big Wild fan growing up, just obviously growing and being in Minnesota. So Marion Gaborik was always a stud there. He would score goals and he could fly too. So he was fun to watch. I'm trying to think who else. There was a Wes Walls on the Wild. He was fun. He was a little bit more blue collar, a little gritty. So a couple of those guys were always great. And then Joe Sakic on Colorado, when they had some of their good teams, are right kind of when I was getting addicted to hockey. They had him and Peter Forsberg and a couple good rivalry games with Detroit that I remember where he would just dominate games. So he was a lot of fun to watch too.
Joe Sakic, man, that gets my wheels turning.
Yeah,
I had the NHL 02 computer game, and
sure.
That's my favorite game of all time. I would always play with the Colorado Avalanche. I think they had Sakic, Forsberg, Tanguay, Milan Hajduk, Adam Foote.
Yeah, Foote.
Patrick Waugh. Who else? They had their team was stacked.
Crazy teams. Yeah, you could go on. If you go look at their rosters, your mind would blow. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it always helps to just kind of have those guys to model your game after. I don't know if your game looks like any of those guys now, but certainly big influences, just growing the love of the game at least.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so transitioning into your years in the USHL with Dubuque, looks like you spent 3 years there. And I saw the first year was 2011, 2012. Did you leave high school early?
So let's see. So after my sophomore year of high school, so how that works is you get drafted. So that would have been after my freshman year. You get futures draft or whatever. So after my sophomore year, I went down and played affiliate games. So 5, 6, I can't remember, something like that, a handful of games. And then after my junior year, so that would have been 2012, 2013 is when I went down and finished this season down there, and then played a full year, 2013, 14, which would have been my senior year. Yep. So left 1 year early.
Cool. So what was that experience like? I don't think we need to go too in depth because we've got a lot to unpack with Duluth and your short career in Boston. But what was kind of your biggest takeaway from Dubuque, and how did that kind of impact your journey?
Yeah, biggest takeaway was that there's a lot of good hockey players outside of Minnesota. I was really eye-opened when you have kids on your team from Texas, California, Alaska, all these places where I didn't even know that there were good hockey players at all. So going down there, playing some games, coming back, I think really motivated me in the summer to be like, wow, I might be good here in northern Minnesota, but in the grand scheme of things, there's a lot going on. And I think that can kind of be said for anything, right? If you're a good student or a good businessman, like there's always better people out there. So that was pretty eye-opening.
Was that kind of a defining moment for you at all, or do you think you would have kind of been fine anyway, or did something really change after that?
Yeah, I'm glad I went down there. Especially that senior year, I was kind of on the fence a little bit, coming back and playing with my buddies in high school or heading down. That's a big decision for a 17-year-old kid to make, to leave home. But I'm really glad that I did. I think it really matured in that 1 year away from home and kind of figuring things out on my own to where I was ready for college.
Cool. So then fast forward, you spend that full year down in Dubuque. I'd imagine you committed to Duluth before that. When did you commit to Duluth?
Yep. So that would have been right before my junior year of high school. So yeah, I had been for a year, 2 years.
Sure. Cool. All right. So now I think it's time to talk about Duluth, because that's, I think a lot of young Minnesota kids would probably recognize you from your years with Duluth and obviously winning a national championship there. You're a pretty consistent player from a numbers standpoint throughout your 4 years there. But tell me a little bit about your development from, undersized freshman Carson to kind of the kid that left his senior year as a captain who's ready to play professional hockey. Yeah.
It's pretty crazy looking back, even just like the photos and videos and stuff from freshman year to senior year. It seems like it was a long time, but a lot changes in 4 years. Really grew up a lot. It was a great spot for me. Was so blessed to have Coach Sandlin and the assistant coaches there. They just do such a great job with young men and kind of getting them ready for the next level, whether it's next level pro or moving on in your professional career or whatever it might be. But I think going in there freshman year was a little eye-opening. I think I did a good job of taking in as much information from the older guys as possible and really growing from that. I was lucky, like I said, to have good captains there the 2-3 years, my first 2-3 years there, and really learned a lot from them, and their leading styles were all so much different. So I was able to pull little things from them and kind of use it in my own style.
I think that segues perfectly into, one other thing I want to talk about, which was your time as captain there. How would you define yourself as a leader, and what do you think made you an effective leader, if you'd consider yourself one, I guess? What do you think are the good leadership qualities?
Yeah. I always respected leaders that kind of lead by example. So I knew that's one thing that I really tried to make a conscious effort at, was not always be the vocal, getting guys' faces. But at the same time, you need to do a little bit of that, hold people accountable. But I had other older veterans on the team that were great at that. So they made my job a lot easier. So that was great. And honestly, at the same time, we were pretty lucky. We had a pretty good group of kids, a lot of characters, a lot of glue at the same time. So it was a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, a lot of ups and downs. I mean, we were under 500, I think, at Christmas, and then you just get hot at the right time, and you walk away in the spring with the national championship. So it's just crazy how things can happen like that.
Yeah, I think we'll probably talk about that turnaround at some point here. But
yep.
Let's take ourselves to 2017. I think, which would have been your junior year. You guys end up having a pretty good season, and you find yourselves in the national championship game against Denver in Chicago, and you kind of lose a heartbreaker. And then, I think some guys ended up leaving, and it was kind of a tough, kind of an unsettling time for you. But let's just talk about that, what it meant to kind of lose that national championship, and what kind of spawned from that process.
Yeah, we had an incredible team that year. I mean, if you look at the lineup, I mean, probably 7-8 guys might turn into 9 or 10 guys that end up playing in the NHL for a significant amount of time. So anytime you have that in a college team, you expect to win a lot of games, and we won a lot of games, and just ran into a wagon of a University of Denver team. I mean, they were good. They played hard, but yeah, that one was definitely a heartbreaker. Getting that close and being with that tight of a group was tough. I mean, like me as a competitive guy, sometimes I think about that loss more than our win, to be honest with you. It still stings, and it probably will for a long time.
So then fast forward, I got some good information from my sources here. I had to dig a little bit. So Neil Pionk, another buddy of ours, and obviously a very good friend of yours and teammate. And then Adam Johnson ended up leaving for the NHL that offseason.
Yep.
And looking at it, you're going into your senior year, and you want another crack at this thing, I'd imagine. And you're thinking, we're losing a lot of experience, and we're going to be going at it with a younger group here. So my sources tell me you were kind of angry at those guys for a little bit, and at the same time understanding. But
for sure,
what did that mean to you for them to leave, and what was kind of your frustration? And then after that, how did that kind of fuel you? Did you work harder? Did you take more of a team approach, or what kind of happened there?
Yeah. So I think deep down I kind of knew that it was happening after the year. Our team was obviously going to look a lot different, losing a lot of that leadership and older seniors, but also a couple guys that were good enough to go play pro. Frustrated for sure. I mean, I didn't take it personally, but at the same time, I just wanted our team to be as good as possible, and I knew those guys could help. But no, I talked to them all right away and congratulated them. And obviously, you're never going to take away somebody's dream of playing professional hockey. Like, that's just not what you want to do. And those guys work just as hard as anybody else for it. So I was happy for them, and obviously things are working out for them now, and they're still some of my best friends. But yeah, at the same time, I think it kind of changed the way I thought about the next year. I was putting a lot more pressure on myself, which ended up kind of being detrimental at the beginning of the year. I wasn't playing great hockey. I wasn't leading well. So once I kind of took that pressure off myself and other guys really stepped up, then it helped fuel my game a little bit as well. That's
awesome. I can see how you'd kind of make that natural leap where, now you're the senior leader and you're supposed to, be the guy and all that.
Absolutely.
Stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
That's tough, man. And I'm glad you figured it out. Have you gotten a chance to play against Neil or Adam yet in the NHL?
Not Adam. Played him in the minors a handful of times. played Neil this year up in Winnipeg, actually. Yeah, which was fun. So we found ourselves on the ice a couple times, and it's great. It's great seeing all those old buddies. I think my first game in the NHL was out in LA against Iafallo, who was on that team too, and just about fought Susie this year in Minnesota. So it's we got a good group. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, what's that like? I mean, you're saying you almost fought Susie. Was he pissing you off, or was it like a thing to get the team going?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I think it was late in the game, and he ran somebody, and I took liberty of it, and I don't think anything was going to happen of it, but we got a good laugh out of it, so it was a lot of fun.
Blood is thicker than water, they say, dude. Once you leave the family.
Exactly it.
That's awesome. Well, cool. All right. So then fast forward here, after 2017, you lose. And then, we've talked a little bit about 2018, redemption. You get the national championship in your home state in St. Paul at the XL against Notre Dame. You had a goal and an assist in that game. What did it mean to kind of cap off your career that way, being the hometown kid in your hometown state, and redeeming the loss from the previous season? Yeah,
a lot of emotions. Obviously, was so happy for that group of guys. Like, came a long way. They grew so much too, especially those younger kids who really didn't know what was going on, but now they're going to end their college career with a couple national championships and a lot of wins. So couldn't be happier for them either. And yeah, it was pretty special, especially being in Minnesota. Everybody that's kind of been with me along the way and helped me out, from the time I was, 5 years old playing hockey outside, my buddies and their parents and our family friends, and everybody kind of got to be a part of it. So it was pretty special.
That's awesome. And to be able to contribute, to get on the score sheet and be a leader, not only, in the intangible way, but to actually contribute must have been pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Take me through, if there is any difference, take me through the difference between the feeling before the 2017 national championship and the feeling before the 2018, because, obviously it's your first one. So my thought is that you'd be more nervous than the second one, but the second one is in your home state. Did that come with a special set of nerves, or did that give you comfort?
I honestly think that well, I'll back it up first. I'll answer the first question. Yeah, the first one, definitely more nerves. The prior 2 years, we had been one game away from going to the Frozen Four. We lost in the regional finals both years. So once we got over that hump, it was a bigger stage. So I think we were a little shell-shocked. I know I was. And talking to guys afterward, I think everybody was a little kind of on their heels to start. But then the next year when we were in Minnesota, I think it was pretty calm and relaxed. We were used to playing at the X. I think we played a tournament there earlier. A handful of guys that played in the state tournament there. It was more of a calming feeling, even for guys that weren't on the team the year before for the Frozen Four. So I think it was nice. It was good for us to be that close to home. That's cool.
I think about it from what we do as a MindStrong standpoint, and I'm thinking through it as like a mental performance, mind. And anytime you can, put yourself in a familiar situation, you're going to be more comfortable the more times you do it. And that's kind of, the idea behind our sauna and ice training and the breathing and kind of everything we do. And you can see how that translates from one year to the next. First year, you hadn't been there before. Second year, you had. And it kind of was a better, more calming experience for you, which is really cool. And to see you cap it off like that, I remember watching that game. I think the boys were all together. I can't remember if we were in Fargo or where we were, but we all watched that game together, and it was so much fun to see you guys get to celebrate that, and seeing Hildy and seeing just everybody.
As yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I was coaching baseball at Mankato that year, and that the very next weekend we played UMD in baseball in Duluth, actually at Wisconsin Superior's Field, and a bunch of you guys came over to the game, and I think you guys were still in some sort of daze from
Having
winning.
fun
But
cheering them on.
you guys had your shirts on and the hats on, and that was I remember that like it was yesterday because you guys were just on top of the world.
Yeah, that was fun, and such a great group of guys too. Like it was pretty special.
That's awesome. So I think it's time to move forward to the professional career. You end up signing with Boston in April, I believe it was, kind of right after the national.
Right after, yep.
Yeah. So you're a free agent. Did you have a handful of teams you were talking to, and Boston made the most sense, or what was that process?
It was kind of quick. I don't want to say rushed because we took everything into consideration and really put a lot of time and effort into it. But had a couple teams and had actually been to Boston's development camp, the summer camp that they put on the year prior, and kind of got to know the staff and everybody a little bit. So felt really comfortable there, and thought it was a good fit, and went with it, and here we are.
And it's been a pretty cool experience for you so far. You've gotten to a cup final, and you've gotten to experience that heartbreak, and now you've bounced up and down, I think, with some injuries and some different things. But I guess kind of my initial question is, what's kind of been what is the biggest difference, the biggest jump from college to pro? I think, the obvious answers that people always give, oh man, the game's so much faster. Oh man, there's just so much more skill up and down the lineup, that sort of thing.
Sure.
But kind of aside from that, what really is the biggest difference for you?
Yeah, so that would be the cliche answer that you were talking about earlier, the size and people's hockey IQ and making plays. But I guess besides all the cliche stuff, I think it would be almost like the feeling of nobody really looking over your shoulder anymore. It's kind of 100% on you. If you come and perform, you're going to get rewarded with more playing time, better contract, longer career. Whereas if you don't do the right things and you don't perform, well, you could be out of a job and out of the game quickly. Whereas in college, you had, your coach looking over your shoulder, telling you things. You had your academic help for making sure you turn your homework in, and it's not like that in pros. It's all on you. So either you go into it being mature and know what's going on, or you have to learn very, very quickly.
You grew up your whole life kind of dreaming for that. Has it been everything that you've dreamt it up to be?
Yeah, it really has. Obviously, year and a half, 2 years into this, and hopefully go for a really long time. So there's a lot of work to still be done. But at the same time, I think it's good to look back and kind of reward yourself and realize how lucky you are to be here. How many people would want to be in your shoes?
Absolutely. And you can, I don't know that you could be with a better organization than Boston. Just from what I've heard about different organizations, listening to Spit and Chicklets, they have all the guests on there, and then just, understanding kind of the game and what it takes. You've got to be in one of the best dressing rooms in all of sports in terms of leadership and an organization who does things the right way. What does that mean? What's it like being in that room with Zdeno Chara, Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, and Pasta, and just all these guys? What's it mean to be with that leadership group, and what's your experience been like?
Yeah, just trying to be a sponge. Like I think you guys talk about it, and like you said at the very, very beginning of this, if you can learn one thing from this interview, that's a win. That's kind of how I go into every day. And a majority of the time I'm learning 5, 6, 7 things a day. So it's been pretty great, pretty special group there. Obviously guys that have been around a really long time and kind of done it all. So and they've been so good to us and myself and all the younger rookies and younger kids. And like you said, it's a first class organization. They do things the right way. They hold people accountable, and it's a really good fit for the way that I kind of go about my life and go about hockey.
So hold people accountable. What do you mean by that exactly? How do they do it in a tactful way where it really works? Because I think, every organization, people are trying to get on guys, and if they're not, then the organization is a dumpster fire.
Yeah, definitely. I think holding people accountable isn't necessarily getting on them, grabbing them and having a talk with them every single time they do something wrong. The way that good cultures and good teams do it, like I see on a day-to-day basis now, is the leaders that are looked upon to kind of show the way and to really, dominate games and win us games and stuff. They're the hardest working guys. I mean, if you go to the rink, Marshy and Bergie are working out before practice, after a game. Z's doing everything possible to take care of himself and be 100% and still dominate at 42 or however old he is. So when us as younger guys see those older guys being the hardest working guys, there's no excuse for us not to. It makes us work hard and go 100% and do anything that we can to help the team win. So I think they hold us accountable in that way, where they really lead by example.
So then on top of that, is it a pretty light mood, light atmosphere, or is it pretty business?
It is. It's a really good mix. I think the team really gels off the ice. You got a bunch of different characters. Same with any team you're on, right? I mean, it's a really day to day. It's great. You have to keep it light. Otherwise, it's a really long season if you're not enjoying what you're doing. But at the same time, once we get on the ice, it's competitive. I mean, guys are fighting for ice time, fighting for playing time, and then pushing each other to get better. And I think it's great. So whatever happens on the ice, you just leave it out there. You go about your day afterward.
Sweet. I appreciate you sharing that, because I'm thinking about even just our buddies Joe and Jake watching. I don't even know if they've been able to have this type of understanding of what it's like to be a professional in your shoes and understand the responsibility that you're taking on as a professional, which it's amazing. And there's a reason that only so many people get to do it, because it's a privilege for sure and not a right. So I'm glad that you're taking the right attitude about it and everything. Leading into kind of the highlight of your professional career so far, at least from my standpoint, I'm a kid in a candy store thinking about this. You scored a goal in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. What was that like for you, and just what did that mean to maybe legitimize your career or legitimize yourself? What did that mean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about legitimize a career yet. Pretty young, but it felt good. It felt rewarding for the 2 months prior to that. Kind of a lot of work and effort, mentally, physically, staying into it. So how the playoff series went was started out playing games. We had a couple injuries, a couple guys were still hurt, and got slotted in and played the first series. Ended up beating Toronto in 7, and then didn't play again. Sat for most of the series 2 and 3. So that would have been probably another 4 weeks. So it was 4.5 weeks of kind of just practicing, not getting rewarded and playing games, which at the time, just like anybody, you want to play, you want to help the team win. But I did everything I could to stay in it, practice hard, did everything everybody was saying, did the workouts to 100% I could. And it was really rewarding when somebody else went down and got in Game 6 and ended up helping the team out.
Awesome. So then obviously it doesn't end exactly the way you want. Heartbreak again at the highest level you can possibly have it. Take me through kind of your thoughts on that, and then just the overall feeling in the room. Talk about a deflated room.
Yeah, pretty crushing. Obviously, so many good hockey players play, you know, long careers, 10, 12, 15 years in the NHL, and some of them don't ever get to that point or don't ever win a cup. And there I was in my first year in the league and had a chance to do it. So to have it go that way was, it was very, very crushing. Seeing guys after, obviously we were crying. I mean, it's grown men and a dream that you never know if you're going to get back there. I mean, we all hope that we do, and we work hard for it, but the pieces were in place to kind of win that one. And obviously didn't go our way, but I thought the beginning of this year, we did a good job turning the page and kind of going for it again.
Yeah, honestly, it's been so long. I don't remember what position you guys are in the playoff race right now. And there's a lot up in the air if that's even going to happen. But I can't imagine the heartbreak and having to turn the page and do it all over again. And you know, maybe it is the fact that you want it so bad and it's all you've ever dreamt about that makes it possible to do that. But I think you've probably talked about it ad nauseum over the past year or so, and so we'll kind of move on from it. One last Bruins question. Do you have kind of a best buddy on the team, or who do you spend the most time with around there?
We had a handful of guys that were down in Providence, so the AHL team, my first year with me. So myself, Connor Clifton, Jeremy Lauzon. So we all spend a lot of time together when we're up in Boston. Great guys. I mean, everybody in the organization, they don't bring in anybody that doesn't belong. So pretty fortunate to have a good younger crew.
That's awesome. Good for you. Okay, so I think we're pretty much up to the present, and I know you've bounced around with some injuries these last couple of months, and things have been tough for you from that standpoint. But I don't think we need to go too much in depth. And I'm actually thinking we're going to have to release this episode in 2 parts because it's getting pretty long, and I have
going long.
I have some things that I want to get to here.
Sure.
So if you've got some time, we'll keep going.
Yeah, otherwise, no worries.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so now I think it's time to kind of turn up the heat a little bit and talk less about your experiences and more about you as a person, as a player, and dive into the training aspect of things. Right. So just right off the bat, I don't know that people know exactly who you are as a player. So tell us about yourself as a player. From what I know about you, you had a lot of value that doesn't necessarily show up on the score sheet. So just tell us about yourself as a player.
Yeah, absolutely. Always took a lot of pride in playing 200 feet. What I mean about that is the defensive end of the ice, as well as obviously trying to chip in offensively as much as you can. I mean, we're all hockey players. We all want to score big goals and get a bunch of points to help the team win. But as I've gotten older and kind of come to the realization that I'm not going to score 50 goals like I did in high school, or 100 points like I did in Pee Wee hockey, and you kind of have to mold your game around what the team needs and how you're going to fit in and help the team win. And that's kind of what I've been doing, whether it was in juniors, in college, and now in pros.
Kind of a chameleon in the sense you just sort of fit the color that you need to. So with Providence and with Boston, what is that role for you?
I think right away it was kind of to step in and kill penalties right away in Providence and help on that side. But at the same time, they want everybody to excel offensively. They're not holding your reins back. And when I kind of realized that's when offensive stuff started coming, started putting some pucks in the net and really growing the confidence. So I've been working on that majority of the time is how to help out offensively and in big situations and big games. Very
cool. Aside from kind of the teamwork fitting inside of things, what's your favorite part about your game? What do you do best from a skill set standpoint?
Skill set, probably skating. Always has been. I put a lot of work into it in the summer. We have a great skating coach up here in Duluth that I've worked with for a lot of years, and I would say that's definitely one of my best aspects.
And you have to be able to skate in today's NHL.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast the game is, and there's that cliche of just how much faster the game is these days. But
yeah,
the other side of you is you're a tremendous competitor. Just having that compete level. Where does that come from, and how do you think it helps you out?
Where does that come from? I think probably growing up, our friend group, we had so many, all of us were all, good players and very competitive. So I think just being around kids like that my whole life, I think it started at a very young age. Us always kind of butting heads and everybody trying to be the best, but at the same time trying to win together, but trying to beat each other for sure. So I think competitiveness is a great thing. I think it brings out the best in you as well as your teammates around you. So that's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Right on. That's awesome. Okay. Training regimen. Obviously if you're going to compete at the highest level, you got to keep that body in tip top shape, and you're freaking shredded. I've seen you at the lake with the tarp off. Has that been natural for you, or has that just come from how hard you've worked in the gym?
Yeah, I think I started taking it really seriously in juniors, really putting the time and effort in. And then, like I said, freshman year of college, I was kind of getting tossed around a little bit. I was a little undersized and a little light. So after that freshman year, really made a point to get in there and put on some weight and muscle and really enjoy being in there. Kind of a different place where you can compete and have a little fun, but also work on your game and get better at it. So I think that's kind of changed over time, though. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more smart about it. Whereas before, I would just go in there and try to lift 1 million pounds every single day, just because that's what I thought I needed and how to get stronger. But now that I've gotten older and a little bit wiser, my body can't really do that every day. So you got to approach it with a little bit more thought, like we talked about with the breathing. That's something that I would have never done 5 years ago when I was just trying to put on weight like a crazy person.
Yeah, you're gonna tell me to breathe? What's up with that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it is cool though. It is a stigma that definitely is being broken down slowly but surely. But just the understanding the chemistry of it is an absolute game changer, in the sense, that our body, when we think about recovery, it's chemical reactions, and your breath is kind of the main chemical messenger that dictates how everything else goes from the top down. So
yeah, and I guess that's mature. Like I just had to mature to the point where you can actually take that in.
Hey, some people never get there. So props to you for doing it at 23, 24 years old. With your training, is it a lot of body weight type stuff? Is it a lot of Olympic lifts? Like, what exactly does your training look like, from a cardio standpoint to a lifting standpoint, and then everything in between, recovery, all that?
Yeah. So the summer's kind of broken down. So on a typical summer, when we're not in the quarantine, I guess, we'd end the season. I would take my 2 weeks off, my break, give my body a rest, brain a rest, and then kind of start phase one, which is getting the cardiovascular system going again. So a lot of longer, slower paced, I guess, bike rides, jogs, that kind of thing. Start feeling good, body weight stuff, just start moving again, basically. And then that slowly transitions into a phase two of the summer, where we're moving weights, doing Olympic lifts, doing a lot of power stuff, a little bit quicker, adding in some sprints, a little bit more hockey-ish movement. And then kind of the last month of the year there is gearing up for the season. So quicker sprints, a lot of high-intensity bikes, assault bike, quicker movements, quicker exercises, kind of getting you back into a hockey routine where your shifts are 35 to to a minute long, you're not having to go for minutes on end. So a little bit more hockey realistic.
That's good. That's I think that's the type of stuff we need to, as listeners, we need to understand is you guys are doing a lot of very hockey specific things, right? It's
for sure.
It's not so much I'm going to run 1,000,000 miles and just be a freak cardiovascular or respiratory, wise.
Yep.
And the game's evolved so much in that way, I think. So it's been kind of interesting to see that shift.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I like to do my bicep curls on Fridays before the weekend, but for the most part, it's everything is geared towards how you're going to be a better hockey player.
I was wondering if those were natural or if we've been at the lake a few times and it's scary, but okay. Yeah. The other thing with your training is the breath aspect of things. We've kind of come to the breath from a little bit of a different angle than you have. Your coach or your strength coach, is it? Who's
in Boston there? Yep.
Yeah, he's been doing kind of some different breathing stuff, and you've mentioned the pelvic tilt aspect. What exactly does that mean, and how has it helped you? What is the benefit you're getting from it?
Yeah, so as I've kind of gone along, and you see a lot of different, every team I've been on has a different strength coach and has different opinions on things and how to kind of tweak my body. So we've gotten to the point where fixed a lot of issues that I had in college and going into pro. But one of the main one is, like you said, the pelvic tilts we talked about in the past. Mine is just it's just naturally rolled back a little bit, where when I'm doing exercises, I have to make a conscious effort to put it forward before doing an exercise. And a lot of his breathing techniques are helping with that for sure.
What might something like that look like?
So something, a regular one that we would do 2-3 times a week would be laying on your back, feet up at about a 90-degree angle, and then making an effort to roll your hips forward and do the breathing from kind of that scenario.
And is it like an inhale and a hold, or what does the breathing aspect look like?
Yeah. Yep. Basically a big inhale, nose, fill everything up, hold, exhale slowly until I think you guys do you guys do exhaustion, or what, when it's at the point where there's nothing left? What's the word that you guys use for that?
I guess we kind of describe it as having a moderate to strong hunger for air.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. I like that a lot. But yeah, so exhaustion. So that's what we go to, and then repeat that. Sure.
I think I'm not exactly sure where the air hunger thing comes from, but in my mind, our oxygen is our fuel, just kind of the same way as food is. And so when we have a lot of air hunger, that just means we need more oxygen. So that's kind of Perfect. The idea behind that. But
yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So anyhow, you do the breathing stuff, you got your workouts. What are the other go-to habits you have from a training standpoint? Is there anything else? Are you doing ice bath stuff? Are you doing what else are you doing? Are you doing yoga, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah. Big yoga guy in the summer. We've been doing that since college, actually. So when hopefully that'll be able to get picked up here soon. Been doing it a little bit here in the apartment as much as possible, but we have a great hot yoga spot that a lot of us go to during the season. In season, big cold tub fan. I do cold tubs, and then the Normatec boots. Similar when I kind of can't get in the tub, those kind of make up for it. And then I know some of you guys love is the sauna. I've always been a big sauna guy. So actually a story about that is my grandma and grandpa are in a small town down in Moose Lake, Minnesota, right in the middle of the state. And they actually, like, when my old man was growing up, they owned like the community sauna downtown. Like they would have like people come in and just sauna at their place, pay whatever, $5 a month and sauna. So my dad grew up like working that and in that all the time. So that guy can sauna with the best of them. I couldn't even, like, growing up, like, you couldn't be in there for 10 minutes with him, and then he's like, all right, I'm going to get this thing going, and you run out of there.
We got to get him down here.
Yeah, he would love it.
Or we got to be up there. I know my boss, Harvey, the owner of the company, he was going to be speaking at a sauna convention in Duluth on May 2nd. I wonder if your dad had heard anything about that.
Oh, if it was something, I'm sure he'd be there. But yeah, for sure, I'm sure he'd love it.
Anyhow, well, okay, so that's kind of your day-to-day habits and everything like that. Let's go to a game time situation, or a game day situation, excuse me. What's your pregame routine look like? Do you have any superstitions, and just simply what gets you prepared to play the best?
Sure. So not a very superstitious guy. I think I was growing up, and then things would happen to, like, break the superstition, and then I would be so worried about the superstition getting broke, and finally I was just like, why am I so worried about something that – so I completely threw all that away. But I definitely am a routine guy. If the routine gets shifted one way or the other, I've learned to be flexible with it, because there's some stuff that you just can't control. A meeting goes long, or a bus is a little late or something. So, but the routine is pretty breakfast, quick morning skate, do a long stretch after morning skate, whether it's a cold tub in there or the Normatec boots. Get a pretty good pregame nap. I used to be a really long one, high school and junior and college, but now that I've gotten older, I've shortened it to either the 20 minutes or a full hour and a half. If I can get a 90-minute cycle in there, I will. And then, head back to the rink and go through the routine, which is just basically stretching, dynamic warm-up. We have our meetings in there, and take care of any of the equipment that I need.
Do you so when's the last meal before the game, and then do you have anything kind of in that last hour or two before the game?
Yeah, so big lunch in the afternoon. I'm trying to think. We get off the ice, so that's usually around 1. Mm-hmm. Is I'll have my pasta, chicken, salad, and then usually make a shake or a smoothie with that as well. And then once I get to the rink, it'll be something quick, kind of carb heavy. Banana peanut butter sandwich with a granola bar, or some oatmeal with fruit in it. Just kind of whatever the body needs to get going. Usually something a little bit bigger to tide me over. And then during the game, I have no problem eating either, whether it's a banana or one of those energy bars either. Usually have something in the stall with me.
Very nice.
And hydrate all day. I overhydrate.
Nice. Hey, that's very important. I think a lot of us definitely miss on our hydration. And I think there's a lot of stuff that people don't know about hydration. Like, aside from just drinking enough water, there's some interesting research with, mixing salt in with your water, and stirring it around with a fork or a knife to re-electrolyze the water. There's some pretty fascinating stuff. Sure. We'll actually have to have a conversation about that, but
that's interesting. And they have so much of that with that BioSteel and the Gatorade tablets and all that now too. So it's I find my way to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you've got a pretty good pick of the lot, I suppose.
Yeah, spoiled for sure.
Yeah. No coffee or anything before the game?
Generally not. Definitely coffee in the morning. That kind of started in college. Get up for an 8 a.m. class, and then it kind of went from there. I wouldn't say I'm really a coffee snob by any means, but definitely like a pretty good brew or a cold brew.
And so, I know a lot of guys do drink it before the games. Why do you find it has a negative effect on you if you do drink it, or it just doesn't really make a difference?
To be honest with you, I've just never thrown it into the routine. I shouldn't say never. There have been preseason games, and also in Providence, you play like afternoon games sometimes. So I have drank it then. Not that there's a terrible crash later on, like second, third period, but just didn't feel like it was too optimal for me. Like it didn't make that big of a difference for me where I was like, wow, I got to do this every time.
Yeah.
So I just haven't added it in. No.
It's not the worst thing in the world to not, rely on that either. So.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's kind of everything from a physical standpoint. Do you focus on the mental game at all, or do you find that your physical preparation does the trick for you and you don't really kind of dive into the mental stuff too much?
I'm a believer of, I kind of always have been, of like willing things into existence. So I think I do find myself kind of unknowingly thinking about the game the next day, what I'm gonna do, change things. And I do watch a lot of video too after. They're so good about getting us our clips and our shift lengths and all that stuff. So I do think that the mental side of it, as far as that, kind of comes into my game, even if I don't make a conscious effort of doing it.
Sure. You've kind of, and that's good. The mental game, I think naturally a lot of really good players don't even know they're doing it, and they just sort of do it. Which kind of leads me to my next thing, I guess. You talk about the injuries you've dealt with. You talk about the heartbreak. You talk about, just the adversity of playing in the best league in the world. What is the thing that kind of keeps you moving forward when times get tough? What is your purpose, I guess, if you will, that kind of keeps you moving?
Sure. At the core of everything is just how much fun hockey is. Like, just like any other job, I mean, you're going to have days where you're like, I really don't want to go to work. Not everybody loves their job 100% of the time, every day, and playing pro hockey is no different. But when you do have those down days, it's so important to look back and be like, man, like, I love hockey. This is what I've always wanted to do. And then that kind of gets you out of that rut. And those days have been there, especially during injuries or things are getting very, very repetitive, dog days of the winter. But yeah, I think at the core of it, it's just loving hockey.
Has there been any times, with significant events that you've had to overcome with the injuries or otherwise, where you've questioned the love for hockey, or have you had to overcome any doubts of that kind?
Yeah, I think the two championship losses were tough. I mean, not to the point where I didn't want to come back and work that summer or go back the next year, but those took a long time to get over mentally. And then I think being hurt this year, was out 10 weeks. That was the longest stretch of my life. I've never missed any time really at all with injuries or anything else. So that was definitely a different aspect that I've never been in, and that took a lot of focus to kind of keep going back every day.
It's tough, man. I've never been there, so I guess I can't really speak on it, but I'd imagine, you're in your second year in the league, and you haven't, like you said, you haven't necessarily legitimized your career, but you've gotten a sniff of it, and I'm sure it makes you that much more motivated, and being injured is can be a kick to the gonads, if you don't take it the right way. But I know you got a good head on your shoulders, and I'm sure you've had a great support system kind of helping you through it too. So
yeah, appreciate that.
Kudos to you, man. I there's not many people in the world that could do it. So props to you. Let's turn the page. We'll do a couple lighter ones here. We're nearing the end. Don't worry. And then I've got one kind of bigger question for you.
Alrighty.
That's important to me to ask to each guest that comes on here. Okay, so Perfect. When did you kind of, if you have you had a holy crap, I'm in the NHL moment? Like, when did it really hit you? And what was that experience like?
Oh, sure. That's a pretty good one. I think every day I kind of say, holy crap, but I think that just that first game. So we were out in LA, walked into pregame skate, and how they do it is your numbers are up on the board, like the whiteboard when you walk in the morning, and the lineup is up there. And was thinking I was going to be in because I was kind of called up for the road trip, but just to kind of see that you're playing that night, and then having to go through your whole day routine, knowing that you're playing that night, was pretty eye-opening. Needless to say, I don't think I took a nap that afternoon. I was pretty wired. Didn't need it.
So you had some nerves going on. Do you find that that you had to work through that in the first period, or what was that like?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first period I probably had, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of playing time. And I probably had the puck on my stick for 5 seconds total. Like it was pretty eye opening. You had to work and be that much smarter just to handle the puck. So I think after that game, I really had to look in the mirror and be like, you got to settle down and figure this out if you want to make this thing happen. So it was good. Gripping
the stick tight a little bit. I've
yeah, that's an understatement.
Man, I can't imagine. So obviously now you've had your fair share of games in the league, obviously not nearly as many as you want. Do you find that you've kind of found your game in the NHL and it's something that you can build on, or are you tweaking some things and working some kinks out?
Yeah, always working on stuff. Obviously, I mean, everybody is. That's a given. But at the same time, the consistency has to be there. Like everybody can, if everybody played their best game one game, they would dominate. They would look like an NHLer. But it's the guys that can consistently do that through an 82 game season that really stick around. So I think playing your A game more than I have been is something that I really got to focus on, is doing it every single day.
And where do you find that if you could pinpoint it, where are you falling short, do you think?
I think if things aren't going my way, as far as not that I have to get points, but there's times where just a puck should go in the net, or I've been in a spot where I've scored 1,000 goals in my life and this one doesn't go in. I think that ends up lingering in my head a little bit more, where I kind of, which I have been making a point of doing it, but definitely early on in my pro career that kind of stuck with me a while, but definitely working on it now.
And I imagine just like those national championships, it'll come the more experience you get. What is the biggest thing you've kind of learned about yourself as a result of, this journey? Not to get sentimental or anything, but what has been your biggest point of growth for yourself throughout, this journey so far?
I think I've gotten better at kind of going with the flow sometimes. I've always been a pretty routine guy, make a lot of plans. But sometimes during the season things change, and you're living in a different place, or you're playing with different people. So I think learning to adapt has been one thing that I've really been trying to teach myself.
Well, you know what they say, I can't remember. I think it was Isaac Newton, or who was it? I don't know who said it, but the quote was
one of the smart guys.
Yeah, one of the smart guys. It's not the fastest or the strongest or the smartest that survives. It's the one that can adapt. And that's going to be,
there you go.
I think that's probably going to be true for anybody. The one that can adapt and withstand any sort of condition is going to be the one that, comes out on the other end. So,
I like that.
Yeah, man. I think you look at a lot of the smartest people in the world, they're not necessarily the most successful. It's just finding a way to kind of make a way,
Yeah, apply yourself for sure.
Okay. So the last fun one here, what's kind of, I've always loved this, and I know the NHL has done some videos on this. hockey players are known for giving the cliche answers of, we got to get pucks deep. We got, blah, blah, blah. What's kind of your go-to cliche hockey interview answer?
That one's mine right there. As long as we get pucks deep and get pucks in the net. No matter what the question is, you can always revert back.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. I've seen those though, where they cut a bunch of clips of guys saying the exact same thing.
Well, you guys got it down to a science. I know none of you love talking to the media, and you guys have you work together as almost a brotherhood, better than any other sport. That just
so funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody stays right on course.
Hockey lingo in general is the brotherhood within hockey is second to none. Everyone talks the same. Everyone says the same things. It's pretty funny to watch. But here we have arrived at sort of the end. And to wrap things up, I've kind of been, I'm writing a book. So that's kind of my preface. I'm writing a book on the recipe for.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know that, Hannah.
Yeah. It's
nice.
Kind of in the works right now. It's probably going to be a few months before anything kind of comes out about it. But the book is about the recipe for a fulfilling life. Okay. I think with my heart condition and growing up, with a single mom and whatnot, I've just had some certain adversities in my life that, have, made me question the bigger picture. I've had two scenarios where I'm going into the operating room to get open heart surgery. And, there's that point of no return where it's like, what if I don't come back type of thing. And it makes you very keen to the idea that life is short and life is fragile. And so I'm kind of on this journey of understanding what is the best recipe for a fulfilling life. So I guess my question for you is what do you think the recipe for a fulfilling life is?
Wow. Yeah, that's a really good one. There's a lot. I think one we were just talking about the other day, a couple of guys here in Duluth too. We were just, I don't know, BSing, but I think finding something that you're passionate about and going all in on it is really important. I feel like too many people are 35, 40 years old and they don't like what they're doing, but they're too afraid to change. I think there's nothing wrong with selling out for something that you really love. And hey, if down the road that's not something that you love, there's nothing wrong with changing, Too many people get caught too much in the same routine just because they feel like they have to. I don't know. I feel like that's one aspect to a very deep question that is.
Man, I've been putting a lot of man hours into kind of dissecting the different areas of fulfilling life. And I think you're absolutely right. You gotta find a way to continue to grow, and enjoy what you're doing. Those are certainly two aspects that I've kind of highlighted so far in what will become a book.
And I think, and everybody's going to go through that at some point, right? It's very few people, like, I'm not going to be able to play hockey forever, I mean, there's going to come a day where I got to become passionate about other things and kind of make a life change that way. And other people have to do their way too. So I think there's nothing wrong with doing that at any age, really.
Well, I appreciate your insights. I obviously don't have all the answers, but I think you're on the right track. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the journey with you. I think, should we do a farewell first and then do a Q&A, or should we do a quick Q&A and then I'll kind of say my last piece here? What do you think?
Yeah, whatever way works with you. We can do the Q&A quick.
All right, here's what we'll do. If any of you guys have questions, I know there's not too many people on here still, but if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A section here. I'll just kind of say my last piece with you, Kars. This has been absolutely awesome, and it's been so good to catch up with you and have you share your story. And there's honestly a ton of valuable information for anyone who gets a chance to watch this. I can't say it enough. I'm really grateful for you taking some time. And I have a high level of gratitude for you coming on. And not only that, but just for the example that you set for all the young athletes out there on what it means to be a professional. Seriously, I think you do it as well as anybody. Like I said, you're kind of the dad, the responsible one in the group. So I appreciate you. And
thanks, Hanno.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is I'm looking forward to getting you down here for a sauna and ice and breathing session with the MindStrong crew.
Yeah, seriously, that'll be fun. Been obviously reading and keeping up with everything you guys have been doing, and it's a pretty cool little thing that you guys got going on. So looking forward to being a part of it.
Awesome. I can't wait. All right. Let's see if we have any questions here. I think we're doing who's the best Cloquet lumberjack, Bo or Weston Michaud?
Oh boy, I don't want to say Weston because it's somehow when he hears this, he's never gonna hear the end of it. So I gotta go with Bobo.
Oh man, that question was from Jake Algren, by the way. Got to give him a quick shout out, as if he hasn't.
What a guy.
And I think we'll just leave it at that because we know everyone that's on here. They can shoot you a text if they have questions.
That's perfect. Yeah, well, we'll see them all. Hopefully I'll make it out west and visit you. Hopefully this whole quarantine is done at some point here.
Yeah, man. Best of luck to you as the quarantine wears on here. I'm really hoping to see some hockey again sometime soon.
Yeah, me too. Thanks again, Han. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys. Hey, this episode will be posted on the MindStrong website and YouTube channel probably tomorrow or the next day. And then next Monday, May 18th, episode 3 will be airing live here on Zoom at 8 p.m. Central Time. Our guest will be my really good friend, Eric Peterson, who is a current member of the LA Dodgers organization and just a phenomenal human being. I know he'll have a lot to share with you guys. So tune in for that and send it out to anyone who you think might be interested. This is kind of, it's a fun little thing we're doing right now, but within that, I think there's a lot of good wisdom that can be shared from some people at the top of their given fields who are, competing amongst the best every day. So I can't wait to see what Eric has to say and for you guys to continue to learn. So on behalf of MindStrong, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you sometime soon. Peace.
Thanks, guys.